Let's play a little game. I'm going to describe something, and it's up to you to decide whether it's real or whether it's a movie. So there's something that happens in the world. Let's just say like a plague, okay? Just like a virus is going around, all right? And the government is trying to protect its borders. Now, what the government could do is spend, I don't know, off the top of my head, $80,000 on an app on your phone to help people checking in or checking out of the country, making sure that, you know, the virus is being transmitted maybe a little bit less, and just being able to digitally track people. Now, the government is trying to launder money. So instead of spending, what did I say, $80,000 on this app that goes on your phone, which most people have a phone, they spend $60+ million. And then they hide all of the information so that people can't find out the companies that were paid, the contractors that were paid. Literally, in the documents that is available to maybe public or investigators, instead of listing the company names or the contractor names, it's listed as Company A, Company B, Company C. Now the game is done. So I want you to decide whether this is real life or a movie. I'm going to save you the time. It's real life. This is Canada. And the app that goes on our phones is called Arrive Scam. No, what's it called? Arrive Can. Arrive Scam. Every time I try and say it, I somehow say scam. Arrive Scam. Arrive Scam. Arrive. I'm not going to say it 3 times because then it's going to reappear. You know what I'm trying to say? So the government has literally spent over $60 million on an app that costs $80,000. And now the Governor General has said, well, this is suspicious. Let's really look into this. And so this week, they're actually freaking looking into it. And it's going to be fantastic because you need the list of the company names, not Company A, Company B, Company C, Company D. You need the actual either numbered business or the name of the businesses and who the hell got paid $60 million for this app that didn't even really work. It got like more reviews on the Apple Store than TikTok did. An app for Canada to go in and out of the border got more reviews than TikTok, which is for the entire world. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Holy smokes, that was a long intro, and it's going to be a long week. Canada corruption is at its peak right now, which is crazy because it seems like every week we're hitting a new peak. And speaking of new things happening every week, if you want to support the ongoing farmers' protests, or show your support rather, then you can find a link down in the description or the pinned comment below for this Stop the WEF farmer protest sticker. They are selling out immediately. The most sales for a sticker that's been close to this one is the I Did Not See That Coming, which is also still, by the way, available for purchase down in the description or the pinned comment below. Now we're going to take a look at Pierre Poilievre, who's bringing to light, as well as other conservative MPs that are bringing to light this Arrive Scam. You know what? It just goes hand in hand. It's called Arrive Scam now for everyone into the future. It's just going to be called Arrive Scam in the history books. Let's take a look at Pierre Poilievre and the House of Commons and them putting the Liberals and Justin Trudeau on blast for the $60 million tab. Our money, by the way, our taxpayers' money. Yeah. Instead of giving the government money, why don't you buy a sticker and, be a little happier than pissing away the money to the Liberals. Here you go. Enjoy the clip.
Oral questions.
Questions orales. Yeah. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Crisis of doubling housing costs and 22 million people forced to food banks. The Prime Minister could have followed our common sense plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Instead, he blew over $60 million on an Arrive Scam app that we didn't need, didn't work, sent 10,000 people erroneously into quarantine, losing income. All the while, the thing costed 750 times more than the Prime Minister promised. Won't he stand up today and admit that the app is just like him? It's not worth the cost. It's not worth the corruption.
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that the moment there were allegations around cost overruns or inappropriate contracting practices, the Canadian Border Services Agency immediately began an internal audit and made the appropriate referrals to the
Yeah, that's the problem.
authorities.
It's always an internal audit.
To manage taxpayers' money very seriously. Under no circumstances would we condone what the Auditor General determined to be contracting practices that did not follow the rules, and anybody who didn't will be held to account.
Absolutely.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, if he wants to hold someone to account for the Arrive scam, why not hold the one person who had the authority to create the Arrive scam and who had the authority to stop the Arrive scam, and that's the Prime Minister of Canada.
There you go.
He is the government. This was a government program we warned wasn't needed, wouldn't work, and now we know it went 750 times over budget. 75% of the contractors did no work at all, but they did buy whiskey and other treats for the top Liberal government officials. Again, won't the Prime Minister admit the app is just like him? Not worth the cost, not worth the corruption.
The Honourable Minister.
Imagine being compared to an app.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As my colleague
Oh, here's the vampire.
said earlier, we would like to thank the Auditor General and welcome her recommendations on the Arrive Scan application.
Look at him reading his script, dude. He doesn't even know his job.
Been implemented, some will soon be implemented, including the introduction of new measures to ensure that tasks and deliverables are clearly defined in future professional services.
When Pierre's PM, you'll never see him hold a piece of paper. He will answer everything
Deliver
using his
fair,
brain,
efficient, and transparent manner.
which obviously these Liberals don't have a brain.
And again, the Prime Minister is hiding under a rock, refusing to stand up and explain himself after he blew $60 million on this Arrive scam while Canadians
You could just say after he blew.
heat or house themselves. This scam
After he blew
involved
Jagmeet,
taking
maybe.
money that could have been used for border security, like scanning the 99% of shipping containers that go without any inspection from our ports with stolen cars, not to mention other things that Canadians could have done with that money. Instead, it stuffed the pockets of 75% of the contractors who did no work. Again, will the Prime Minister admit that the Arrive scam is not worth the cost and not worth the corruption?
There you go, man.
The Honourable
It's a simple question. Guarantee he's going to read a script.
Mr. Speaker, I'm surprised the Leader of the Opposition would mention investing in border security when his government cut
Crypto?
1,000 officers that did the exact kind of work that he's now pretending he
I thought they were going to bring up crypto.
When
My
they
bad.
eliminated 50% of the intelligence capacity in the Border Services Agency to work with local, provincial police and the RCMP. So, Mr. Speaker, we have no lessons to take in investing in border security from somebody who gutted the Border Services Agency.
Oh, this
Decisions.
dumbass.
The Auditor General found that the Liberal government wasted almost $60 million on the ArriveCan app that no one uses and doesn't even work. All at a time when Canadians are struggling to put food on the table and pay their rent or mortgage. Why are the Liberals so up?
Call an election then. Call off your coalition, you freaking dumbass.
colleagues, I'm going to ask, if, as I'd asked at the beginning of question period, if you could please keep your comments to the time that you have questions so I could hear the Honourable Member ask a question and also to hear the Honourable Member answer a question. The Honourable Member from Burnaby South from the top, please.
I think the Conservatives were upset that I forgot to mention their scandals with the Phoenix pay system and Deloitte. They also have their own scandals to worry about. I should have mentioned that as well. But let's talk about the garbage decisions of this Liberal government. The Auditor General found that the Liberals wasted $60 million on an app, the ArriveCan app, that no one uses and doesn't work. All at a time when Canadians are struggling with their groceries and their rent. Why are the Liberals so obsessed with making rich consultants richer and so out of touch with where Canadians are at?
Call off a coalition.
The Honourable Minister for Public Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as we said earlier, we are grateful to the Auditor General for her report, which was important and timely. We have accepted all her recommendations. Some of them have already been implemented over the last few weeks. Some are being implemented. We look forward to more opportunities to work with her so that we make our procurement system as transparent, equitable, and fair as Canadians expect it to be.
The Prime Minister's Arrive scam was supposed to cost taxpayers $80,000, but it was confirmed by the Auditor General that it in fact cost more than $60 million. And after 8 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, we know that he's not worth the cost, and he's definitely not worth the corruption. And this process was so corrupt that his favorite company of two guys in a basement, GC Strategies, got to write the contract for themselves to the exclusion of everybody else. And we know they did no IT work. That's been confirmed, but they got paid $20 million for their
God.
Minister just admit that he's lining the pockets of insiders. At
I forgot to send my invoice to them. Where's my money?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
I'll take a little piece of the pie.
Speaker, just because our colleague repeats a series of allegations that are not borne out by the facts does not make them true. Absolutely. The facts are, Mr. Speaker.
The facts are. The reality is, right?
That there were allegations of inappropriate contracting practices. An internal audit was begun by the President of the Border Services Agency, and referrals were made to the appropriate authorities, including the RCMP. Anybody who did not follow the contracting rules, Mr. Speaker, will be held to account. My friend knows that, and he shouldn't ascribe a series of responsibility where it doesn't exist.
The Honourable Member from Leeds Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, Canadians want us and expect us to ascribe responsibility to the individual responsible, and that's this Prime Minister. This app was supposed to cost $80,000. It cost more than $60 million. They CMP investigation by the Procurement Ombudsman, by the Auditor General, and the results so far are damning for this government, that they've lined the pockets of insiders while Canadians are lined up at food banks. It's absolutely unacceptable that the cost overruns have seen $20 million go to a company that did absolutely no work on the app. Why are they putting their friends ahead while Canadians suffer?
That is an insane amount of money.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Why are you speaking French now?
Responsible for public safety just said this misinformation and disinformation is completely unacceptable.
Oh!
What was known was that the border had to be closed and that billions of dollars worth of international trade were at stake. What we heard from the Auditor General this morning was that the situation was unacceptable, so we need to work hard on making sure that things are done.
$80,000 app that costs $60 million.
Prime Minister's Arrive Scan app is not worth the cost or the corruption to Canadians. Today, the Auditor General informed us that Arrive Scan, an app that was supposed to cost $80,000, will now cost Canadians a minimum of $60 million.
Oh, my God.
Gets worse. God. The documentation that the AG says was deleted or destroyed, it could be more than $60 million.
Oh!
Doesn't know who worked on Arrive Scan.
That's not good news.
Fulfilled to requirements, or if it was even completed at all. So why did the Prime Minister rig the process so that insiders get rich and taxpayers foot the bill?
I don't know about you, man, but that pisses me off. Because that's our money.
Mr. Speaker, repeating the last part of my honourable friend's question does not make it true. Nope. What is true, Mr. Speaker, is that at the moment contracting practice irregularities were identified, the Border Services Agency took all steps appropriate
irregularities.
To determine exactly what were the facts and to hold those responsible to account in the case that that's necessary.
I'm going to use that on my taxes.
The General identified a series of contracting practices that were not followed. The government does not condone that behavior and has taken all the steps to make sure that those circumstances don't repeat themselves.
The Honourable Member from
I'm going to use that line on my taxes.
Every word I say is true, and that member knows it. The Prime Minister's Arrive Scan app is not worth the cost or corruption. Contractors were paid over $1,000 a day, even though 18% of the invoices for these contracts had no supporting documentation. So we don't even know if the contractors completed the work. GC Strategies pocketed almost $20 million and yet completed no work themselves. It gets worse. They wrote the requirements for the $25 million contract that they won. Simple question for the Prime Minister. How is he going to get our money back?
Hey, as God is my witness and all you viewing, do you remember when I worked for 10 days working on this app? Shouldn't I be paid 10 grand?
Again, the Auditor General identified contracting.
Let me write them an invoice.
Were clearly not followed. Mr. Speaker, under no circumstance is that an acceptable circumstance. Governments have responsibility to manage taxpayers' funds in the most effective way possible. That's why we have accepted all of the Auditor General's recommendations. And the good news, Mr. Speaker, is the Border Services Agency and the Procurement Department had already begun to act to put in place a number of oversight measures before the Auditor General's report, and we look forward to fully implementing everything that she suggested.
The two insiders at GC Strategies,
this guy's a genius,
with the NDP Liberal government to set the requirements of Arrive scam contracts, which GC Strategies then got. In other words, the process was rigged. The government massively overpaid for this $60 million glitchy app because the process was rigged. It was rigged so that GC Strategies got $20 million from taxpayers and did no actual work. After 8 years, it's clear that this Prime Minister's Arrive scam app is not worth the cost or the corruption. Why did the Prime Minister rig the process to pay insiders and punish taxpayers?
Reminder, folks, if you are not subscribed, hit the like button and subscribe. It would really help grow this channel to 100K.
Facts don't bear out. What we can say, Mr. Speaker, is that the government takes extremely seriously the obligation of public servants to follow the contracting rules. That's exactly what the President of the Canadian Border Services Agency has assured me that she's doing. And she's also assured me that she's taken a series of corrective measures before today's Auditor General report and will continue to do whatever is required to ensure that taxpayers' money is always handled in the appropriate way.
Hear, hear. The honourable member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, everything I said is directly in the Auditor General's report. So the minister can't claim he's listening to that report and yet deny what I said. Well-connected insiders average $1,100 per day for working on this contract. Wow. After 8 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost, the crime, or the corruption. The Prime Minister's Arrive scam process was clearly rigged, and now Canadians are out tens of millions of dollars when they can least afford it. Why did the Prime Minister rig the process to pay insiders and punish taxpayers?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Again, Mr. Speaker, when the Border Services Agency was made aware of allegations around inappropriate contracting practices, the appropriate authorities were called in.
No, they weren't.
Audit was
or else where's the money, bro?
By the way, which is still in progress. And Mr. Speaker, if people did something that was not appropriate or met a criminal standard, they will obviously be held to account. The government has been very clear.
Then why isn't Trudeau in jail?
To respect taxpayers.
Sorry. Why isn't Trudeau in jail?
Exactly what was put in place.
I get too excited.
Grand Lake.
After 8 years, this NDP Liberal government is not worth the cost or the corruption. The Prime Minister's Arrive scam app is not worth the cost or the corruption. Today, the Auditor General revealed that well-connected insiders and consultants were making $1,100 per day, almost twice the inflated government rate. The auditor also found it disturbing that an app that should have cost $80,000 cost $60 million that we know of. Why did the Prime Minister rig the process to pay insiders and punish taxpayers?
The Honourable Minister for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, we thank the Auditor General for her important report, which not only we took great gratitude to see this morning, but we have followed many of the recommendations that we find in that report, including improving evaluation requirements and work experience data, increasing record keeping on subcontracting work, and suspending authorities temporarily for task authorizations until we are confident that better procedures are not only put into place, but also better monitored.
And you know it.
The honourable member from Saskatchewan, please is an experienced member and understands that the people who have the floor should be talking.
Whoa.
From Brantford.
Shit's going down.
Mr. Speaker, 2 words for this government: jaw-dropping. Today, the Auditor General revealed that the Prime Minister paid almost $20 million to GC Strategies for his Arrive scam.
Uncle Brock always looks pissed.
Consulting company working out of their basement performed no actual IT work on the app. This amount is double what the government previously reported. Will the Prime Minister admit that he rigged the system to pay well-connected Liberal insiders while fleecing taxpayers?
The Honourable Minister for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a time of crisis, a responsible government has 2 responsibilities. First, to protect the health and safety of its citizens.
Yes,
Second,
exactly.
to ensure the efficiency of its internal system. What we know from COVID-19 is that a daily cost of $1 billion
I don't know if it's because I'm hungry, but I just pictured him as a vertical pita bread.
day. What we know is that hundreds of thousands of, no, hundreds
I can't
of people
explain
are
it.
dying every week. But at the same time, this is no excuse for the type of recommendation and finding that the Auditor General deposited today, and that's why we are going to continue to implement.
The honourable member from Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, as outlined by the Auditor General, the pandemic urgency can never justify corruption and oversight failures outlined in this report. The awarding of contractors favor GC Strategies, securing almost $20 million without competition. The CBSA's disregard for basic management practices compromised accountability, competition, and value for money. This Prime Minister is not worth the cost, crime, or corruption. Will fleeced Canadian taxpayers get their money back?
Here, here.
The honourable.
I would like some of that money back.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my colleague that a global pandemic and the rush to put in place a series of measures to protect the health and safety of Canadians.
Bro, it's an app. You're making it sound like this is the front lines
Public
of Germany or
following
something.
the appropriate contracting rules that are in place. So, Mr. Speaker, we agree with the Auditor General when she says that those rules were not followed in a way that was acceptable. And, Mr. Speaker, as we've said, we're putting in place, and we already have put in place, a series of measures to ensure that this circumstance is never repeated again.
These guys think they went to war or something. It's a freaking app designed in an office.